Salman Rushdie's Midnight's Children, 1981, is a landmark in post-colonial literature and magical realism. It won the Booker Prize in 1981 and was later awarded the Booker of Bookers for being the best novel to have received the prize in its first 25 years. The novel chronicles the life of Salim Sinai, born at the exact moment of India's independence, midnight on August 15, 1947. His life is inextricably linked to the fate of the nation, making the novel an epic allegory of Indian history. Blending historical events, personal memory, and fantasy, Midnight's Children explores themes such as identity, nationalism, fragmentation, and the burden of history. The novel is structured as a fictional autobiography narrated by Salim as he recalls and reinterprets his life in an effort to make sense of his existence and the trajectory of his country. Book 1. Birth and Ancestry. The narrative begins with Salim recounting his family history. He traces his lineage back to his grandfather, Adam Aziz, a Kashmiri doctor who becomes disillusioned with both religion and colonialism. Adam marries Naseem Ghani, a woman he first treats for a mysterious illness. They settle in Amritsar, and Adam becomes increasingly involved in Indian nationalist politics. Their daughter, Amina, marries Nadir Khan in a short-lived union, then remarries Ahmed Sinai, a businessman from Bombay. The couple moves to Bombay, and Amina gives birth to Salim at the stroke of midnight on August 15, 1947. Unbeknownst to them, their newborn has been switched at birth with the child of a poor street performer, Wee Willie Winkie. The swap is orchestrated by Mary Pereira, a hospital nurse inspired by her socialist ideals. Salim thus becomes the unwitting beneficiary of a wealthy upbringing, while Shiva, the true son of the Sinais, grows up in poverty. Salim's birth is symbolically aligned with the birth of independent India, and he claims a special connection to the other children born in that magical first hour, each possessing supernatural powers. Salim's gift is telepathy, through which he attempts to convene the Midnight's Children Conference, a secret gathering of children with special abilities. Book 2. Childhood, Adolescence, and Political Unrest. Salim grows up in Bombay during a time of great political and cultural upheaval. He experiences personal traumas, his father's business fails, his family life deteriorates, and he faces alienation due to his appearance, including a constantly dripping, oversized nose. He also becomes aware of his telepathic powers and uses them to explore the minds of other Midnight's children. He learns that Shiva, his biological counterpart, possesses immense physical strength and martial prowess. As Salim matures, his powers wane. The Midnight's Children Conference also disbands due to disagreements among the children, mirroring the growing religious, linguistic, and cultural fragmentation within India. The family moves to Pakistan following communal tensions, and Salim experiences further loss. He witnesses the death of his father during a bombing raid and loses his memory. He becomes a member of the Pakistani army and inadvertently participates in the brutal military campaign in East Pakistan, which leads to the creation of Bangladesh in 1971. These events highlight the horrors of partition, war, and political betrayal. Book 3. Return, Emergency, and Decline. Eventually regaining his memory, Salim returns to India and settles in Delhi. His family is dead or dispersed. He becomes a political target during the emergency declared by Prime Minister Indira Gandhi, referred to elliptically in the novel, a period of autocratic rule from 1975 to 1977. During this time, Salim and the remaining Midnight's children are rounded up and sterilized in a state-sanctioned attempt to erase the past and reshape the future. This act metaphorically represents the suppression of potential and the brutal control of individual identity by the state. Salim is released after the emergency ends, broken and disillusioned. He ends the story in the present day, 1977, working in a pickle factory and writing his memoirs for his future wife, Padma. As he approaches his 31st birthday, he foresees his own physical disintegration and death, suggesting that his body, like the nation, cannot contain the weight of its fragmented history and contradictions. Themes: nationalism and the individual. At its core, Midnight's Children is an allegory of India's struggle for self-definition. Salim's life parallels the nation's history, from independence and partition to the emergency. The novel explores how national identity is constructed, fragmented, and manipulated. Salim embodies this struggle. He is caught between personal desires and the symbolic role imposed on him by historical circumstance. Rushdie suggests that national narratives are as fictional and unstable as personal ones. Salim's efforts to narrate his life mirror India's effort to forge a unified identity out of immense diversity and division. Memory and history. The novel blurs the lines between memory and history. Salim admits that his recollections are flawed, exaggerated, or anachronistic. This unreliable narration reflects the idea that history is a form of storytelling, subject to personal bias, myth, and revision. Rushdie challenges official historical accounts and proposes that multiple, contradictory narratives are necessary to approach truth. Through Salim's reconstruction of his life, the novel argues that history is not objective but rather a collage of personal and collective experiences, often shaped by trauma, desire, and ideology. Magical realism. Rushdie employs magical realism to highlight the surreal and illogical aspects of post-colonial identity. The Midnight's Children possess fantastical powers, telepathy, time travel, shape-shifting, which represent India's cultural multiplicity and unrealized potential. However, these powers also fail to bring unity or change, underscoring the disillusionment with political promises. Magic serves not as an escape from reality but as a way to intensify its contradictions. The fantastic and the historical coexist, challenging Western rationalist modes of storytelling and emphasizing a uniquely Indian narrative form. Fragmentation and hybridity. Salim is a hybrid figure, not only biologically, due to his mixed ancestry and swapped identity, but also culturally and historically. His body, constantly falling apart, symbolizes the fractured post-colonial state. He is both insider and outsider, privileged and powerless, hero and victim. The novel's structure, nonlinear, digressive, self-reflective, mirrors this fragmentation. Rushdie embraces chaos and multiplicity, asserting that identity, both personal and national, is inherently hybrid, unstable, and contested. Character analysis. Salim Sinai. Salim is the protagonist, narrator, and symbol of post-independence India. Born with the country, he is burdened with the responsibility of representing its trajectory. His unique gift of telepathy is a metaphor for connection, but he fails to unify the Midnight's Children, reflecting India's own failure to maintain communal harmony. Salim is often passive and reflective, overwhelmed by historical forces. His identity is shaped more by external events than by internal will. By the novel's end, he is physically broken, but intellectually empowered, having at least reclaimed the right to tell his own story, flawed as it is. Shiva. Shiva, Salim's biological counterpart, represents the other side of India, the aggressive, power-driven, militaristic impulse. Named after the Hindu god of destruction, Shiva is both a warrior and a tragic figure. His rise to power contrasts with Salim's decline. Whereas Salim's powers are internal, mental, reflective, Shiva's are external, physical, destructive. Shiva's eventual alignment with the repressive regime during the emergency highlights the dangers of uncritical nationalism and authoritarianism. Padma. Padma is Salim's companion and the imagined audience of his narrative. She represents the earthy, practical side of India. Her interruptions ground the novel in realism and question Salim's excesses. Padma symbolizes the importance of listener and reader, anchoring the story in shared experience and communal interpretation. Mary Pereira. Mary's decision to swap the babies is the act that sets the narrative into motion. She embodies the theme of chance and human agency in shaping history. Her remorse and eventual confession suggest the unpredictability of personal choices and their massive consequences. Indira Gandhi, the widow. Though never named directly, Indira Gandhi appears as the widow, a symbol of political tyranny. Her role during the emergency, arbitrary arrests, forced sterilizations, suppression of dissent, is criticized through allegory and satire. Rushdie critiques not only colonial legacies but also the failures of post-independence leadership. Symbolism. Midnight's children. The 1001 children born in the first hour of India's independence symbolize the nation's hope, diversity, and potential. Their magical powers represent India's cultural and spiritual richness. Yet, their eventual downfall underlines the fragility of these ideals in the face of political manipulation and societal fragmentation. Salim's nose. Salim's prominent nose is both grotesque and mystical. It connects him to his telepathic power and to India's mythic tradition of signs and omens. It also marks him as different, constantly scrutinized, alienated, and ridiculed. The nose symbolizes both power and vulnerability. Pickles and the Pickle Factory. In the final chapters, Salim works in a pickle factory, preserving recipes passed down through generations. Pickling becomes a metaphor for memory and storytelling, preserving fragments of the past, flavored and altered by time. It also reflects the novel's layered structure. Stories within stories, ingredients within the final product. Cracks and disintegration. Throughout the novel, there are references to cracks, on Salim's body, in the nation, in memory. These signify fragmentation and the inability to form a cohesive identity. Salim's physical deterioration mirrors the disintegration of ideals and the collapse of the unified national narrative. Narrative style and structure. Midnight's Children employs a nonlinear, digressive style. Salim constantly interrupts his own narrative, comments on its flaws, and jumps between past and present. This postmodern technique draws attention to the act of storytelling itself, emphasizing that memory is subjective and that history is always being rewritten. Rushdie fuses oral storytelling traditions with Western literary forms. Salim's narration resembles a qissa, an Urdu oral tale, where exaggeration, repetition, and tangents are essential parts of meaning-making. This style resists colonial literary conventions and asserts a post-colonial voice rooted in multiplicity. Post-colonial and political critique. Midnight's Children is a profound critique of post-colonial nation-building. It interrogates the legacy of British colonialism, the trauma of partition, and the failures of successive Indian governments. Rushdie challenges the idea of a unified, stable national identity, suggesting that India's essence lies in its contradictions. The novel critiques political figures and policies without reducing them to mere satire. It humanizes history by embedding it in individual lives, thus reclaiming the personal in the face of institutional violence. Rushdie also addresses the role of language in shaping consciousness. Writing in English while invoking Indian sensibilities, he subverts colonial language by bending it to serve a post-colonial purpose. Conclusion. Salman Rushdie's Midnight's Children is a richly layered, ambitious novel that interweaves personal and national histories. Through the figure of Salim Sinai, Rushdie explores how individual identity is shaped by historical forces beyond one's control. Blending magical realism with political critique, the novel examines the contradictions of post-colonial India, its hopes, failures, and ongoing struggles. Salim's journey, from privileged child to disintegrating body, mirrors the arc of a nation burdened by its past and struggling to define its future. In telling his fragmented, exaggerated, and unreliable story, Salim offers a counter-history that privileges memory, multiplicity, and imagination over rigid, official narratives. In the end, Midnight's Children is not just a novel about India's independence. It is a meditation on storytelling itself, on how we preserve, distort, and pass on the stories that shape our world.